Hi guys, Jeanette Wilde. So we are continuing on our series on making a junk journal using the gorgeous Titanic papers by Relative History. And this session I just wanted to talk about the fact, extending pages, or the other way to look at this is oftentimes, so to make a signature for your book, you fold the paper. And sometimes we have a paper that we'd really like to be, in order to fold it to get the size I need, I have to turn it sideways. And then when you go through your book, it's, cockeyed, it's going the wrong direction. And you may want it to actually go vertical. And so to make a paper that's usually going this way, go this way, you can use this same method. And what I do, so let's see here. So this is my cover. Here's my cover. And again, I've measured, and remember, you want to give just a little bit of room at the end, right? I mean, if I make it completely, well, of course, that's up to you too. Some people like things to kind of fall out the edges, but I prefer anything that's coming out the edges of my book to be more like trim and ribbons. Paper, of course, it might get ruined, because, especially if it's coming out the bottom, you set it in upright, So I like to give a nice, at least 1/4 of an inch around. But that's my preference, so it's up to your preference. So for this cover, I've measured that to be 8.5. And so for a paper to be folded to go into this book, it would have to then be 17 inches wide. And typically, we tend to have paper that, here I have A4 paper. Of course, in the U.S., you'd have the 8.5 by 11, which is neither of which being 17 inches. So we have to extend our papers to fit, or to make up that width. There's, some people I like to have my book to have, so looking at this signature that I have, to have all kinds of different widths and heights. But some people like it to be real uniform, every page goes edge to edge, up and down. So this method can be used to accomplish that. If you have a few papers that you'd want to use, but they don't fit the dimensions. So, let me put this to the side. We can look at this signature. So, what I do is, and I think most people do this, is use hinges. So let's see, here is, look at this page. I'm going to pull it out of my signature here. Excuse me. Allergies are killing me, so I'm going to be coughing a bit every once in a while. And maybe sniffing, I apologize. So as you can see here, these are A4 papers that I have. I think this one is Kool-Aid, and then I spread some shimmer over it. This one is alcohol ink dyed. And each of them are A4 papers, and I wanted them to go, edge to edge, width and height. And of course, if I folded them, I wouldn't get that. I would get, it'd be more like this, and then like this. So what I use is a hinge. And this is nothing more than a piece of paper. This one I've cut 2 inches wide. I wouldn't go too smaller for each size than 1/2 inch, just because you're using this to anchor the page, and it's it's going to be turned within your book. You want to have a good width holding on to that page to give it stability. This is just a leftover piece that I'm using for example, so it's not 2 inches wide, but I had it here, so I'm using it to show you what I mean. So it's just a strip of paper, and I've used, as you can see, this is just another paper that I dyed that, you know, maybe it didn't turn out, I forget, but I just used it to make my hinges so it would nicely coordinate, because you're going to see that, you know, in the book, you're going to see a bit of this sticking out. So I wanted it, you know, to coordinate. And you just fold it down the middle, and then obviously glue it. Well, the way that I do it is to take one page and I put the glue on this top. So if I set my hinge down, this has no glue, this one has the glue. And then I set my paper down, and since there's no glue, I can adjust it, get it exactly where I want it, butt it up against, and then I fold it over. And there's the glue, and that sticks down. Then to get the other page, simply flip it over, and now I have my hinge. It has been adhered already to this side, so it's just like before with it sitting down. I take this blue paper, again, butt it up, put the glue on this side, and just fold. Really simple. You can, if you want, do it this way. Lay the hinge down on the table like this. You know, either put your glue on both sides or only on one side, and then I use this as an example, and then just lay it down. Make sure, so like I said, the reason I do the fold over method is because, as you can see, looking in this one, there is a tiny bit of a gap going all the way down here. That's because if these two were butted up against each other on that fold, it's not going to fold very well. You need that little bit of a gap for it to fold nicely. Okay, so if you lay it down, if you do the lay down method, just make sure that you're giving yourself, you know, what is that? It's about 1/8 of an inch in there. Okay, so now, like I said, I've used paper matching the paper that I'm using within my book. Another thing might be fabric. Make sure it's a fabric that doesn't warp its shape when stretched a bit or pulled, or, you know, that kind of thing. So muslin, probably not a good idea. Maybe a linen, that might be good. But you don't want it too thick, otherwise, you know, needs to be folded. So if it's too thick of a fabric, you're going to have a bunch up along your spine. You don't want that. Another thing, especially if you can cover it up, would be Kyvek. That is the stuff that post office envelopes are made of. So if you ever notice that it's a woven material, and it's very hard, I mean, you can't rip it. You have to cut it. And you can use that. It comes in sheets. You can get it in really big sheets and rolls. Or whenever you receive a envelope that happens to be made out of it, keep it. And you can cut that into strips. And they work just the same. Now, most of it is obviously white. If you get it in the sheets, it's white. If you get it in the envelope, it'll have the lovely red and blue piece, you know, on it. So when using it, you're probably going to want to cover it up, unless it goes perfectly with your book, then no cover up needed. You can dye. You can use, you know, one of your, not dye, but ink, the Kyvek. It's kind of a slippery, fabric-y kind of, so it's a little more difficult, but it works to color coordinate it into your book. I find paper to work just fine. I mean, obviously, if in my journal I'm folding paper and then sewing that in, then another piece of paper will work just fine. So that's how you can either take a paper that would normally be horizontal, and then therefore the words would be, you'd have to turn the page if you wanted to see the image. You can make it vertical, so I can use the same method to turn a horizontal page vertical, or to do here what I've done, which is to extend it so that I get the height and width that I want for my page within my signature. Now, the other thing I wanted to look at, and I don't really have an example of, so I'm just going to use a piece of paper to give you an example. Okay, let's pretend this is a page in my book. Actually, let me fold it like this. Okay, and I folded it like this so that I get the width that I want for one side of my signature. So I'm going to, let's look at this page, and this is that. So as you can see, let me pull that out. This one I folded in half. Let me actually get a different one that is folded the way I'm talking about. And I'm not seeing an example that I've made. But if I folded this such that this side went all the way to the edge and this one was shorter, that's what I'm trying to show you here. I folded it so that at least one side of my paper goes edge to edge like I, want it to. But this one now doesn't. But I want it to. And maybe there's a picture on this that I wanted to maintain in my book, which is why I'm maybe not cutting. For whatever reason, this is how I folded it. What you can do to extend this page so that it goes all the way to the edge, if that's what you want to do, and I'm going to use Post-its to give an example, is you take another piece of paper and butt it up again. I lay it down on that page and then fold it over, so again I get the gap that I need, right? And then I might cut that so I can fully show you what I'm talking about. So I turn it over so I can see that I'm cutting it exactly. Okay, so now I have a piece of paper that now goes all the way to the edge, and my Post-it didn't quite meet the top and bottom, but obviously if I want it to be top and bottom and side to side, my Post-it would be a little wider, but it's almost there, so we'll go with it. Now I can either leave it like that, right? I've got edge to edge, or another thing to do might be to take another piece of paper, and this time when I I can layer it over like this. And maybe this time when I go to glue it, I can glue in a U as opposed to, the whole thing like this Post-it is doing. And I would get a pocket. It would only go to the edge of the paper that I've put it in, but that's okay. So then I can make it into a pocket. But now I've got that piece of paper completely sandwiched, and it goes, trim off that edge so it matches everybody, right? And now I've got a paper that goes edge to edge. And like I said, if I did a U, when I put the second piece over, I'd even get a pocket. So the reason I said that, you would only go to that point is unless, if you want whatever item you want to put in to go all the way to the edge, I would go before putting down the second page. Ooh, see, perfect. I have a Post-it. Peel it off. put a piece of tape. I would use Scotch tape because it's glossy, it has a nice slide over. Put a piece of tape over that seam between the two pages. Because if I put this down, make a U, and I've got a pocket, things are going to catch, especially if this is significantly thicker paper than this. If it's much thinner paper than this, it may not be an issue. But as you slide things in and out of that pocket, it's going to catch on that. And eventually, and you're going to have difficulties, or you may even rip the paper, and then you really have difficulties getting it in. So either when you put on your second paper, have your U so that it goes in a U, but that you cover this piece completely so that any item you put in stops, at that point. Or, like I said, Scotch tape is a nice glossy, but, really good Scotch tape that's not going to come off. Now remember, Scotch tape is not archival safe, so eventually it will turn brittle and fall apart. But if that's fine with you, that just gives you a nice glossy. When I do this method, I glue this entire piece. I don't want things to catch and have issues at some later date. So I put it the wrong way, so now it sticks out again. But there you go. So that's how you can extend a page to go side to side and edge to edge. Now, if I wanted another method here, let's peel these off, that I find to be really kind of neat looking. I'm going to peel this one off as well. And of course this is pretty old paper, so it's going to take some of it off. Oh, not too bad. Let me cut this in half. So this is a neat look. So instead of going all the way top to bottom, instead this time I'm going to just go down here below. Right? Kind of did a bad job of it, but right? And now I have this piece kind of sitting up there, and I can do the same thing. So I'll just use the piece that got cut, put it over. If I can glue here, maybe make a U here, and I've got a pocket here, something here. When I turn the page, I've got a neat L that I can work with. So there's all kinds of ways to extend the pages. Like I said, I personally like the look of, as you can see, the look of, the pages not all being the same width and height. I like that. So it doesn't bother me at all to have random sized pages. But if you like that look, that is how you can do it. Okay? So that covers making our pages and our signatures the sizes that we want. And if you've got questions, comments, let me know. You can private message me if you have a question, if you like, or put it here in the video comments. Otherwise, we will see you next time. Thanks again, and make sure you go check out A Relative History. Oops, how about going this way? And check out her Titanic collection. So, we'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye. Oops. Really, bye-bye.